This video is designed to teach you how to play and to show you the basic components. So let's get started. As you can see, there's quite a bit here. You've got the center board, it's two-sided. You've got different apostle boards for managing your own deck. You've got faith cards that you will be using as positive cards. There are 3 decks of trial cards, easy, medium, and hard. There are different components on the board. So you have apostle pawns, like this. You've got yellow church member cubes. You've got blue missionary meeples. And there are 5 different scenario cards that are laid out in the game. So let's go back to the board. The board is built around the 20 AD Roman map called the Orbis Terrarum. The Romans were less interested in accurate maps than they were in being able to see where all of their forces were. So they compressed the map so they could get a whole view of the world in order to find out where they had their legions. In making their maps, the Romans oriented their maps east up. That's one of the reasons we call countries in the Far East Oriental. Okay, so what you have here is you have the Mediterranean Sea in the middle, Africa, India, China, Asia, Europe, and Britain over here. So it's kind of a unique perspective on the world from what we're used to. Okay. Also on the board, you have various different types of icons. You have draw and discard pile for the trial card. You have a storage place for your church members. You have a storage place for stops. There are denotions for the different level of faith point cards at the top, and then the spots for the 9 cards that represent the books of the New Testament on the bottom. The board is two-sided to allow for different scenarios. There are 5 scenarios in the game. The last scenario will use the view of the entire world, but the first 3 scenarios are going to zoom in on what was the eastern half of the Roman Empire. Okay, so here again you've got Rome, then you've got Judea, Jerusalem in the east, Africa over here, Asia Minor into Greece, and then into Italy back at the bottom. The different cities are denoted as the boxes on the map, and they're connected by the blue travel lines. They're also color-coded by region because some of the cards affect not only the church or the city where you're in, but a whole region, both good and bad. Some of the routes have boats, and that's because travel in the 1st century is not too easy, so anytime you're hopping on a boat, you're risking some storms and there will be some movement effects. So that's the board. Okay, now let's talk more about the pieces. I told you about the church members. They're the yellow cubes, and you'll be representing population on the board as you go. We talked about the missionary meeples. Those are going to allow you to do some special movement things. And we talked about the apostle pawns. Those are the players on the board. And when bad things happen to the church, the apostle pawns are never removed. I know that's not very thematic, but that will let you play the entire game. Other things that you put on the board, okay? You're going to have your trial cards. There's a easy, medium, and hard deck, okay? And that yellow, it denotes the medium deck. You've got an extinguished token over here. That looks like a little candle that has been snuffed out. Okay? Anytime a church becomes empty, that token moves up on the track. And if it ever gets to 5, then the game is over and the team has lost against the board. Okay? Other things that you are going to have within and around the game, you will have individual apostle player boards. They have a section for you to make your own draw and discard pile. They have the pray box that I'll explain in just a second. They will have some concept art related to each individual apostle. They tell you what the order of the gameplay will be and what your special power as your apostle is. Okay. Other things that you will have in the game include stops. Okay, these are bad. They will hinder movement or growth. So in this case, you have a mission stop over here with the missionary meeple, and then you've got a grow stop where the church member crossed out there that inhibits growth during the grow action. I'll explain that more as we go. Last, but certainly not least, you have the different faith cards, okay? And faith cards do lots of different things within the game. They all have a board effect. In this case, it allows one apostle to get out of jail, okay? And then they have a faith point value on the bottom that indicates how many points they are worth when you try to buy new cards. Okay? There are 5 different scenarios in the game. In the base scenario, you are going to be moving, starting from Jerusalem, and your goal, you have to get a piece of any kind, church member, missionary, or apostle, in every city on the A side of the board here that represents the eastern half of the Roman Empire. And you have to collect all 9 cards that represent the New Testament canon before either you lose 5 churches or the trial deck runs out. So as you play, you're going to be playing in rounds. Each player starts with a unique apostle deck. Okay, so let me tell you what those are. Paul allows you to remove mission stops, and he's going to help you to move. Okay. Peter has a kind of interesting power. Peter doesn't actually do anything to the board, but you can see that all of his cards are worth 2 faith points instead of 1. That means that Peter's going to be able to buy the more powerful miracle cards at the end of each round from the very beginning of the game. James allows you to add extra movement. John allows you to take weaker cards out of your deck so your deck becomes more efficient. And he also has a special ability to buy more of the word cards. I'll explain what those are in just a second. Barnabas allows you to remove grow stops so the churches can grow. And Andrew directly adds new church members to the board. So those are the different apostle powers. Each apostle starts with 6 of those cards and then 2 word cards. So each word card has 2 things on it. They have a board effect that you can play. For example, this one would add extra movement. Or you can take it out of your deck and it represents the books of the New Testament. So in this case, this card corresponds to Luke and Acts. So you would take it out of your deck, put it down here on the board or next to the board near Luke and Acts, and now you have, as a team, have collected Luke and Acts into the New Testament canon. Okay? So each player is going to start with 2 of these word cards. They take those 2 word cards plus their 6 apostle cards, and they're going to shuffle them up into a deck of 8, and that is their starting deck. At the beginning of each round, what they are going to do, I've got Barnabas's cards in front of me right now. They shuffle their cards up. They draw a number of cards dependent on the number of players. When you play with 3 people, it'll be 6. Okay, you usually draw 6 cards into your hand, and that's going to show you the cards that you have at the start of this round. Okay, so in this case, Barnabas has several of his starting cards plus 1 of the word cards. Okay, during each turn, what you're going to do is you're going to flip a trial card. Okay, the trials are always bad. Okay, in this case, we're going to lose a church member and have to add both a growth and a mission stop. Okay, and they affect the church where the elder is located. So this black pawn represents the elder token, and it will pass around the table among the apostles. Each one will kind of have their turn. Okay, and what's going to happen is they draw the trial card and they apply it to the city where they're in. Okay, so right now in this scenario, you started in Jerusalem altogether, but as you spread out, the trials will begin to affect the different regions as apostles move into them. So Barnabas is here, so we will remove a church member. If you have the choice, you always want to try to remove a church member instead of the missionary meeple, because the missionary meeples will help you to expand into empty cities. Okay, and then we need to place the grow stop and the mission stop on the board. Okay, now all the players silently to themselves are going to pick 2 cards and place them face down in the prey box. So let's say, for example, right now, Barnabas is going to pick these 2 cards and he's going to put them face down. When all the players have put their cards face down, Barnabas, as the elder, is going to roll a die, okay? And the 8-sided die corresponds to sending messages. Messages in the 1st century are very difficult to send, so communication's not always easy. If you roll a 4 or higher, then you'll be able to talk for the remainder of the round. If you don't, if you roll a 3 or less, then you're not going to be able to talk. So in this case, we wouldn't be able to talk. And also, as the number gets lower, bad things happen. With 2, you have to add an extra stop. I'll do that in a second. And with 1, you'd lose an additional person. So I have to re-roll for an extra stop. In this case, it's a grow stop, so I will put the new grow stop on the board. So that takes care of the trial and the prey fit actions. Now we go into share. So each player is going to take 2 cards and flip them over from their pay box, right? So that was Barnabas's cards. Now, what will happen is 2 cards will come in from Andrew. Say he played these 2. and Paul as our third person is playing these 2 cards, right? So now the team has these total of 6 cards that are now face up in their prey box on each of their apostle boards. Whoever has the elder token is going to pick 2 of those cards, in this case without talking because we rolled less, or 3 or less, okay? So taking a look at the board, Barnabas is going to pick this card from Paul that allows him to remove this mission stop, and I'll explain why. And he's going to take this card from himself to remove one of the 2 grow stops that's in Jerusalem. And those are placed back over where they are normally stored here in the inkwell. Okay? The other choices he had are Andrew would have allowed him to add church members to the church where he, the elder, is located, which in this case is Jerusalem. Okay? Or he could have played this card to add an extra movement, or he could have taken it out of his deck and added it to Luke and Acts. Okay, so now those cards, whether they were used or not, are going to go onto the player board in the discard pile. The only time a card comes out of your deck is when you take it to add it to the New Testament canon. Okay, so those effects have happened. Now the next action is the move action. The elder on his move action can make 2 movements. And there are 2 types of movements. The first is when you go from a city that has a church, like Jerusalem right here, to a city that doesn't, like Caesarea. To do that kind of movement, it's a mission move. You need to have either an apostle or a missionary to go with you. So in this case, we'll send 2 apostles and a missionary. You can send any number of people on the trip with you. Okay, another mission move could be from Jerusalem over here to Jericho. Again, you're moving along the white lines. This time I'll take an apostle, a missionary, and at least 2 church members are there, okay? Now, when you're doing that, you need to have an apostle or a missionary, and the church that you're starting from needs to have at least 4 pieces of any kind in it, but then you could take as few or as many as you want. If, however, you take all of the church members out of a city, that city becomes empty, that church is extinguished, and the token moves up. So normally best to leave a couple of church members behind. Okay, so that's movement. The other kind of move you can do is a fellowship move, and that's when you go from an established church like Jerusalem to an established church like Jericho. Okay, and that doesn't require an apostle or a missionary. You can just move church members as you like to along the blue lines. So that is the movement action. Okay, if there is a mission stop, like this trial put on Jerusalem, okay, then you cannot do a mission move out of that church. So if we hadn't been able to get rid of that mission stop, we would have been stuck in Jerusalem at the start of this turn, okay? You can move into this city, and you can move out of this city into an already established church, but you can't move out of that city into a neighboring city, even a neighboring empty city, even if you have 4 pieces, including at least 1 apostle or missionary. All right, so that's the move action. The next action is the grow action. Any church that has 3 or more pieces in it can grow. It does not have to, but can grow. So this one's got 4, so it will grow. This one has 4, so it will grow. This one has 3 in Jerusalem, so it should grow, but it has a grow stop. So it will not grow. Instead, we'll just put that guy back in the supply. Okay, so that's the grow action. Then what happens is Barnabas would take the elder token and pass it to the next player. And we would continue that around again, or that live phase again with another trial. And after that, he'd play another 2 cards. And after the end of that trial, Barnabas would be left with 2 cards. So anytime you're left with 2 cards, you move to the next part of the round, and that's called the mature phase, in which you buy new cards. Okay? So up here at the top of the board, there are 4 piles of faith cards that you can add to your deck. And they will be face down when you normally play the game. But just to show you kind of what's in them, I'll talk to them face up. Okay, so you are going to use the sum of your points. So in this case, Barnabas has a total of 2 points to spend on new cards. You don't have to buy cards if you don't want to. You can spend all of your points, or you can spend just a part of your points. You can buy 1 card or multiple cards, okay? Let me tell you what's in the different piles. In the 1-level deck, you've got different 1-level effects, like get 1 apostle out of jail, add 1 church member to the board, remove 1 stop. Those kind of effects are in the 1-level card. Okay? In the 2-level deck are all of the different New Testament word cards, right? So you've got some that add movement or remove stops, and then on the bottom are all of the books in the New Testament. There are 2 of each of the 9 cards in the 2-level card deck. Okay? In the 3-level deck, You have cards that have 2 effects. Add 2 movement. Add 2 church members. Get some missionaries back. Remove 2 stops. Okay, so they have 2 effects on the board. Okay? In the 4-level deck, you have major miracle cards. So you can put a shield that protects the city against trials. You can get a whole bunch of different people where your apostles or missionaries are. You can move across the board being carried off by the Holy Spirit. You can free all of the apostles who are in jail. You can get a whole crowd of people in one location, right? These represent the major miracles from the book of Acts. So those are in the different decks. When you're buying cards, you can, like I said, buy 1 or multiple cards. If you buy 1 card, like in this case, Barnabas will buy 1 2-level card. Then you take the top 2 cards off the deck. You decide which one you want. Say we haven't gotten 1st and 2nd Peter yet, so Barnabas will choose that one, okay? Then you take the other card and you put it back on the bottom of the deck, okay? And then you're going to take the cards that you had and the cards that you bought, and you're going to put them face up into your discard pile, okay? Now it's the end of the round. We need to start a new round, so you're going to draw the cards that were remaining from your draw pile. So in this case, Barnabas has 2. Then you're going to take your discard pile, you're going to shuffle it up. It becomes your new draw pile and draw up to your hand limit, which with a 3-player, again, is 6. Put the other cards back in the draw pile. In the future, if you have enough cards to draw on your draw pile, you leave your discard pile alone. So as your deck gets bigger, you will move through your deck a little bit more slowly, okay? The game continues until you accomplish your win conditions, which in this scenario, again, is 1 piece in every city on the board. And all 9 books of the New Testament collected before either the extinguished token gets to 5 or the end of the grow phase when you draw the last card. The other thing I didn't mention up front at the start of the play is that if you have more than 2 players playing, then you're going to take out 1 card for each additional player. So as the game scales for difficulty or for a number of players, you'll also get just a little bit harder despite the fact that you have more cards that you'll be playing throughout the game. Okay, that I think does it for gameplay. Alright, so that's a basic scenario. It's called the Acts of the Apostles. Okay, there are 4 other scenarios in the game. Okay. In the second scenario, Peter's Gentile outreach, you're going to play just in the green region, and instead of spreading out, you're going to grow the church up. So each church needs to get to a population of 10. Okay? In the third scenario, it's Paul's missionary journeys. So you're going to start in Antioch, and you go throughout Asia Minor into Greece, and then come back to Antioch, except there will be a whole bunch of the mission and grow stops in the field that you're going to have to fight your way through. Okay? The fourth scenario is called the Appeal to Caesar. This is Paul, who starts off in prison in Caesarea, and he's going to go on the boat down to Rome, and he needs to get to Rome with a certain number of pieces and have an effect on the city of Rome. Okay? And then the last scenario is To the Ends of the Earth, and that again is the other side of the board. Let me flip this over real quick. Okay? So you've got 4 different chains here, and they represent different pieces of history. So Thomas comes out to India by 57 AD. Philip goes down into Africa. You've got Andrew that comes up and around the Black Sea. And then we don't know who, but they took the gospel from Rome, where Paul went when he was in prison. Okay, and Peter as well, when they were martyred there. And they go into Spain, and then France and Germany and England. It all happens in about the first 150 years of church history. So in this scenario, you start in the 4 different start locations, and you have to fill in the churches, even though they are disconnected arms. So in each scenario, you'll be collecting specific books of the New Testament that correspond to that era of history and accomplishing the various scenario before the trial deck runs out or you lose 5 churches. The other thing that's in the game that we haven't talked about is an adversary variant. Okay, so that's this little Roman legion guy. You can play the game instead of totally cooperative. You can play everyone against one person, and they play as the Roman legion, and they can march the Roman legion around the board and put different stops down. They also control the order of the trials as they come out within each round. So that makes the game a little bit more difficult as you're playing against kind of a thinking opponent working against the team as they accomplish the victory conditions. Right now, Commissioned is in its final testing stage and is beginning art development. Our goal is to launch a Kickstarter campaign sometime in 2015. If you would like to get updates on the progress of the game, have any feedback, or want to give some input, please contact us at plysite@karagames.com. Thank you again for your time and support, and we appreciate you letting other people know about the game.